It's going to really give the hope to parents who are right just next door. We've got the public school that I taught at is just next door. Now these parents who did not have the funds to be able to bring their students here, because again, we do charge a tuition with sliding scale, and we do offer scholarship, but so many parents can't even, afford that or see see that educational issue in their life. Their children's life is vital enough, but for the funds to come, for them to be able to make that decision, I think that's going to be the first thing. It's going to increase our enrollment. I think also it's going to be able to increase the quality of programming, because we operate on bare budget. I mean, we barely pay our teachers. To be honest, I don't take a salary. I live by faith. I'm a volunteer technically, and so but just to be able to take care of our teachers, to be able to increase the quality of our programming here, I believe it's going to be phenomenal. But there's so many more things we want to be able to do, to be able to enhance the learning experiences of our students.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
Welcome to the American Potential Podcast. I'm your host, David Fromm. There's a growing push in education to give families more choices, to help them find the kind of learning environment that really works for their kids. Just this year, states like Tennessee, Idaho, Wyoming have all passed school choice legislation. And now we can add another major player to that list, Texas. We've talked before with Americans for Prosperity's Texas State Director, Genevieve Collins, about their efforts to get school choice passed. And she's joining us again today. We're also bringing back another guest you might remember, Joel Enge, who runs a school that serves students who are struggling in the public school system. His story is very inspirational because he sold his house to open the school debt-free. If you missed his episode, it's definitely worth going back to listen to. Today, we're excited to have both Genevieve Collins, AFP's Texas State Director, and Joel Enge, who is the founder and director for Kingdom Life Academy, back with us to talk about the work they did to make school choice a reality for families across Texas. Joel, Genevieve, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to
Glad
be
to
here.
be here.
Well, I'm so happy to have both of you here. I have some more knowledge about what's happened there because I know Genevieve, we've worked together for a number of years, and I've just been watching this as it's developed over the last few years, and it's so exciting for families in Texas. So before we get into what school choice looks like in its past form and signed form in Texas, Joel, let's start with you. So I talked about who your school serves, but can you share how you all do that at Kingdom Life Academy?
Yes. Actually, Kingdom Life Academy, we are a micro school that targets students that don't fit traditional educational setting, and students that have struggled in public school, and some that have even been in private schools, but a traditional setting not working for them, and to give them more of a hands-on experiential learning opportunities, what we do here at Kingdom Life Academy.
So where did you get the inspiration to open the school? And also, where are you located specifically? I mean, Texas is kind of a big state.
Yeah, gotcha. We're in Tyler, Texas, and actually more specifically in North Tyler, which is predominantly low-income minority area of Tyler. And so the inspiration really came through God as I taught in public school. I taught public school for over 16 years, and I watched so many students fall through the cracks because the traditional setting was not working for them. And so that, through God, inspired me to start Kingdom Life Academy to help these particular students that did not fit the traditional model.
What did you teach? What grade level, or was there certain subjects?
When I taught in public school, I taught math and science. And so middle school math and science, 6th to 8th grade. And so that was the deal. And also the fact that there were so many things, so many skills and concepts that we required to teach that did not necessarily transition into everyday life, into real life. And so that was another frustration, that watching students who were capable, if they were given opportunities to really experience real life in a real life setting, and it wasn't contrived educational experience, but something that was real and it would be relevant to them, it would be added motivation for them to learn. And so that was one of the big deals that I saw and experienced when I taught public school, particularly in the middle school that I taught in.
So now with Kingdom Life Academy, what age ranges do you serve, and how is it different than a traditional school setting?
Yes, the age range we serve is 11 through 18. We're a middle and high school, so 6th grade through 12th grade. And we do require them to be no greater than 10th grade. We need them to be with us 3 years. First year, really get acclimated to the system. Also, we do a strong emphasis on career investigation, so they will actually be ready to choose a career path by the time they're 16, their junior year, and to move in that one of three directions. One being the local junior college that offers certification programs. Secondly is trades. We have different relationships with various trade companies here where students can actually go start work at 16. And, for example, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. And thirdly is the military. And so we do have, a graduate that actually chose the Air Force, and he's a military policeman for the Air Force. And so we want to be able to get students, targeted, and really focus on a career path. But our form of education, as I mentioned earlier, is experiential. So it's not, as I call, sit and get. Of course, there are, even some of our more traditional academics are more geared toward relevance, and where we do have more projects embedded in them. But also we coordinate and integrate. For example, the math and the science, is integrated within the cooking, within the gardening, within, the carpentry classes, the welding, the animal husbandry. So all this is real. Like when you teach it in the right way, it's life, it's integrated. Students have to read and write, and do math. One of the big examples is that, we use in our culinary when students are finding recipes online and it serves 4 people, then they have to know how to scale that recipe up. Now, math is relevant. Now, understanding how do I multiply a fraction, that's relevant now because they have to go shopping. They have to maintain the budget. So now their level of concern is just, exalted exponentially. And so the same thing, even when they're, looking at their paychecks and, having to do their taxes, now it's relevant because we have a mock, but a financial program called Real World Financial Literacy, but it's experiential. And so even with, again, they have to file their income tax. We just printed out their W-2s back in February and teach them these processes. They have to make their deposits in the bank account. That students that are running companies because they pay bills every week. And so students have to pay bills to these company managers, and these managers are paid a commission. So now they need to know, right? They have to be able to calculate percentage. And so now it's realistic. Now it's practical, it's experiential. And because it directly benefits them because they do have discretionary spending opportunities. And so that, adds the incentive. But now, again, these skills are incorporated, the concepts and the skills are now relevant, and it's experiential. And also it's repetitive. When you have students who struggled in traditional education for years because they struggle with different types of concepts, and they didn't have the time to really internalize those concepts, especially in math, right? But when we look at life, so much of life, particularly as adults in our personal life, it's repetitive, right? We deal with bills, we deal with taxes, we deal with so many things on a repetitive basis. And so shouldn't school be that way? To build the confidence, right, in the lives of these students. And so I can go on and on, but I won't talk forever. But so that's what we're about.
Well, that's awesome. Philosophically, I couldn't agree with you more too. I love innovative approaches to education that meets kids where they are. Just one final thing about it as we get to know your school. When did you guys start? How long have you been doing this?
Yes, we actually started in 2013 when we started the school.
Wow, that's some longevity.
Yes. It's been challenging. It's been good.
I don't have to tell you how long it's been.
Hey, I had an afro when I started, man. All my hair fell out now.
That's awesome.
I'm just kidding.
Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. All right, cool. Well, hey, Genevieve. Yeah. So, Genevieve, we talked last year. You and Jeff Craig talked last year about school choice in Texas, but how long has AFP been working on this and really trying to get this passed?
Well, AFP has been, as a national organization, has been working on this since at least 2010. When the Texas chapter started, it was at least 2010, and this was a program and a policy that the organization believed in. In Texas, I'd say school choice advocates have been on a 40-year crusade to pass this policy. So this has been quite a long time coming. I've been with the company for 4 years now, and I started in 2021. And coming from the post-pandemic world, when you're talking about education and that we need to do better for these kids that have been kind of on Zoom classes and basically had a year off of learning, how do we empower these kids? How do we empower parents and make sure that student outcomes are really prioritized? You would think that school choice policy would have been primary, first and foremost, what has to happen? And that was just not the case in 2021. School choice policy, specifically around education savings accounts, came into focus a little bit in 2023 during the legislative cycle, but died very ingloriously. And I'm happy to go through some of that if we want to rehash some of that. But now, as of May 3rd, Texas has signed into law the largest school choice program in American history, not just in Texas history, but American history. And we have finally, as I like to say, we have finally gotten the great white whale for education policy. Kids are going to win.
That's exactly true.
Exactly.
It makes it such a huge difference for the whole, for really just kids, well, across Texas, but it's such a big number of kids for the whole movement of trying to empower families to make education decisions. It's such a huge deal. Genevieve, maybe talk to me about, I think we can look at the 3 years where something was tried and like the vote count of support. And then I want to, and how that increased. And then I'd love to hear about what you have been doing as AFP Texas, along with your partners, to change that vote count.
Sure. So as I mentioned, in 2021, there was a bill that put forth school choice on the House floor. And for all of the listeners here, the Texas House of Representatives is really where the biggest fights in Texas politics happen, not necessarily the Senate, although they certainly have their squabbles. But there's 150 Texas House of Representative members. There's 31 senators. In 2021, 29 state reps, so Texas House of Representatives, voted for school choice. So 29 out of 150. Then in 2023, we put up a bill again. We are undaunted in Texas. We will always put up the bill. But in 2023, that number went from 29 people that supported school choice, or state reps that supported school choice, to 65. So 29 to 65. But we're still short of the 76 vote threshold to pass any bill on the Texas House floor. So that bill died as well. This year, in 2025, we went from 65 to 86 yes votes. So not only did we clear the 76 vote threshold to pass the bill, we even had a nice cushion of 86 votes. Every Republican, except for 2, voted for the school choice bill. So you can see that the Overton window had really shifted, not just in public perception of what needs to happen for our kids coming out of the post-COVID world, seeing that there aren't any gains that are happening in a post-COVID world. We need to try something new. Parents really igniting that message and carrying that torch. Then the legislators started following their communities. And we also made sure that legislators also had a reason to follow their communities, which we can get into here in just a moment.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear about that, because I'm very interested in how those vote counts keep moving up. That's no accident. I think it really speaks to the strategy and the tactics that AFP Texas was really involved in. But Joel, why was it important for you to be part of this?
Absolutely. It was important for me because years, again, as Genevieve, mentioned back in, 2010, I was still teaching in public education, and I saw the waste. I saw, not only did I see the waste that was happening in public education, but I saw the failures I mentioned earlier to have students' needs met. And so many students in my community. Again, not all. And again, I'm not against public school. Public school does work for a lot of students, but not for all. But I'm watching, again, coupled with the waste and student failure. I just really saw the need for choice, and giving parents a choice and giving students a choice in the state of Texas. And that's when, I guess, my heart really began to burn. And as Genevieve said, early on, it was only 20 something. I was so discouraged because, I'm friends with a local Republican that even at the time I had a conversation with him, and he was against choice. He was against school choice. And again, this was back around 2010, 2011. And I was very discouraged because, again, if the Republicans are not for it, what hope do we have? Because we know the Democrats, across the nation have been 100%, almost 100%, in opposition. So I was just blown away, to be honest, when I'm walking for years with this burden in my heart that I basically had just buried. And it was, excuse me, but it was AFP, man. It was Americans for Prosperity that ignited a hope, it was this, again, it's just, if I can use a seed analogy, I was carrying this seed in my heart of school choice that I never even just given up, thinking there was going to be a hope for it, and to have this dry seed, right, be immersed in a fertile soil, and that fertile soil was Americans for Prosperity, and being invited to an event for Americans for Prosperity by a friend of mine, Cindy Nick. She and I taught public school together, and just to be, again, just it was almost like a salvational experience. It was just like incredible. There's a hope. This is happening, and this is a reality. And so I just jumped in with both feet. Again, we talk about taking that one small step, and I was so excited about that opportunity, that hope that was brought to me by Americans for Prosperity. And so I had no choice, it was like, I'm on this desert island, and this boat comes to say, look, we're going to carry this dream that you've had for years, and we're going to fight with you and give you a voice, right? And give you a voice in this movement, in this fight that I never thought I had, and, it's just huge, man. Excuse my passion. Yeah. But it was just huge. And it's like, okay, whatever I need to do, going to, town hall meetings, going down to the Capitol, meeting with different reps, taking my students down, letting them share their stories, and that opened up the door for me to be able to go, before the House Education Committee and to testify and talk about our battle, what we're doing in the North Tyler community, and the need for school choice for minority students and low-income families, which is huge. Because that's something that, again, our students have been locked into, right? Locked into public education, locked into these failing situations with no hope. And now education savings accounts has given us hope. And man, I'm fired up. I'm excited about what it's going to do in our community and the hope that it's bringing into our community. But for all of children throughout Texas, all of families throughout Texas. And I'm excited.
That's great. Well, we're super excited. It's such a great development. And I think one of the things I always say about Americans for Prosperity is that our job is to come alongside folks who are making great change in their community, like yourself, like Joel here, and then amplify those voices and try to aggregate those voices to make a much more powerful and hard to ignore voice, so that we can make that policy change to really unleash what folks like Joel have been doing in their communities. Genevieve, so what did you guys do this session, to raise voices and make the change finally happen to allow this to be successful?
So I think we have to kind of take a quick step back in time and go to 2023, because setting the table for a little context will be helpful here. In 2023, I had multiple members from rural parts of the state tell me, I don't hear about school choice. People in my district don't want this. And I was like, well, that's not right. I have staff in your district. Like, I know that that's factually incorrect. And so, but it kept hearing that from members, and it was just like they were brushing off their own communities. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to tolerate this. If you're not going to listen to your own community in your district where you live, I will bring your community to you. We will bring all of your folks to Austin so you can hear them. I guess it's one of those things like, if you're going to cross me, you better be ready for what the onslaught is about to be. And so we started at AFP. We really focused on doing one thing really well: connecting people with policy and making sure that their stories and that their voices were heard. And so we brought a bunch of people to Austin. That's our state capital. We brought 1,200 people to the state capital in 5 weeks. And I was like, we will be a visual force that no legislator from across the state can overcome. They have to address the people of the state of Texas and what they want. Okay, so that happened. And then the bill dies on the House floor. The bill doesn't have enough votes. As I mentioned, we had 65 votes. So that happens right before Thanksgiving. Well, turns out in Texas, right after Thanksgiving is also when potential candidates can raise their hand and say that they want to run for office. So we got busy transitioning from the end of policy session and to the beginning of our political season. And we said, you know what? We now have a hit list of every single member who voted against kids and their families. And we're going to go target those communities, and we're going to go flip seats with aligned candidates, people that are much more aligned with our policy point of view around freedom, opportunity, prosperity, limited government, and school choice. We're going to go find those people, and we will work to help get those people elected. So we spent the next year making sure that the political landscape enabled the policy landscape to achieve a huge victory. And so we worked to oust, let me rephrase, David. We helped forcibly early retire a number of elected officials who were barriers to children and families in their own communities. And then over this year, so that was in 2024, and we won 21 out of 24 of our races. And school choice was a huge part of the fight, and the governor led the way on this. And because he did so, the tone was set for this legislative session. And we worked at AFP to, again, make sure that this isn't political, that now we transition from the end of political and into policy, and that we connect people with policy. We uplift the stories of real people and how this policy will benefit them. And so we brought probably over 500 people to the Capitol. Joel has been with us every step of the way, making sure that honest, sincere, hardworking Texans who believe in the power of children have a say, and have a say in the future of Texas and how we will lead the nation in education. And that's what we did.
Oh, it's fabulous. There's a giant win across the country, but I mean, for Texas children and families, I'm so thrilled. I get to see firsthand all the hard work that went in. Was awesome. But the culmination was, last Saturday at the governor's mansion. Governor Abbott, who has been an absolute champion, the leader on this effort, signed the bill. And I know, Genevieve, you and a lot of your team were there. Joel, you were there, but not only did you get to attend, you were asked to speak as well, which I mean, my gosh, what a pretty awesome honor. So what was that moment like when you were asked to speak, and what did you have to say?
Yeah, it was incredible. The irony of it, when I received the call from the governor's office, I was in the chicken coop.
Literally, the chicken coop.
And his assistant called me, and so she's hearing the chickens in the background crowing. I mean, roosters crowing, all kind of stuff going on. And that was just, I was blown away. I'm thinking, I'm being invited to speak at the governor's mansion for the signing. It was just God, so honored, so humbled that I would be invited, so grateful, absolutely grateful. Uh, and just to be able to inspire and to encourage the families that were there, the children, the parents that have traveled, so far to be there, and our representatives again, to be thankful again, as Genevieve said, for the legislators who fought and made it happen. Our governor, who was just relentless, in fighting the onslaught, standing against the onslaught of attacks and opposition. It was just huge. And just to be able to say thank you and to be part of the celebration was incredible. I mean, an opportunity of a lifetime, again, to be part of the greatest, the largest school choice legislation, bill to be passed in our history, in our nation's history, and to be able to play a small part in it was just incredible, incredible, incredible. So grateful, so grateful.
Yeah, David, let me jump in here because Joel is being overly modest. So first off, the governor signs the bill, and then who are the rest of the speakers? So we have the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker of the House, the two authors, our Senator Brandon Creighton and our House Public Education Chairman, Brad Buckley. Then Joel speaks. Joel is one of two non-legislators asked to speak. And Joel didn't just Joel just owned the moment. I have to be honest. I started crying when Joel spoke. I learned in that moment that I'm also a really ugly crier because it was captured. Someone took a picture of me and I look just like I'm like coming undone. Like I'm trying to hold it together very unsuccessfully once Joel's speaking. But Joel completely stole the show. Not only is his school put on a pedestal, and he's able to talk about the need of what this bill will do to change lives of minority kids that have fallen through the cracks, but give hope. And then Joel begins preaching. I mean, there is a sermon from the stage, and Joel is saying, I mean, I'll never forget this. Joel is channeling Martin Luther King Jr. and just going through a series of I declares. And he said, I declare that Texas will be the head and not the tail of education in America. And it's just suddenly he holds this audience of 300 people in his hands, and he has them enraptured and inspired, and they're craving more because they are getting fulfilled hearing Joel's personal fulfillment. And it was just an incredible, inspiring moment to be for me and for me to be just a small part of his journey. He's done all the hard work. We just gave Joel a microphone to share his story and share his testimony. We're a small part in his huge story. But it was just an incredible moment, David. And I have to make sure Joel's story is really told because it was powerful.
Awesome. Well, I think one of the things that's so inspiring to me about working in this space and working with people like Joel and to pass good policy is like passing the policy isn't the job being done. It's just that's just to allow the Joels of the world to go out there and make the really great change in people's lives day in and day out, year after year that we want. And, I think I'm so excited for now what you're going to be able to do, Joel. I mean, maybe talk very briefly because we're going to wrap up soon, but like what's the impact that this might have on your school?
Yeah, I think the first impact will be just increasing enrollment. Right now we're operating at half enrollment. And so I believe that, again, it's going to really give the hope to parents who are right just next door. We've got the public school that I taught at is just next door. And now these parents who did not have the funds to be able to bring their students here, because again, we do charge a tuition with sliding scale, and we do offer scholarship, but so many parents can't even afford that or see that see that educational issue in their life. Their children's life is vital enough, but for the funds to come, for them to be able to make that decision, I think that's going to be the first thing. It's going to increase our enrollment. I think also it's going to be able to increase the quality of programming, because we operate on bare budget. I mean, we barely pay our teachers. To be honest, I don't take a salary. I live by faith. I'm a volunteer technically, and so but just to be able to take care of our teachers, to be able to increase the quality of our programming here, I believe is going to be phenomenal, because there's so many more things we want to be able to do, to be able to enhance the learning experiences of our students. But we've just lacked funding to do so. And so I think that's what's going to happen, because we've got so many teachers. Again, we're creative. We have this creativity and our desire to continue to empower, because that's what we're about, empowering our students and giving more opportunities for them to take control of their learning experience. And so I think the funding is just going to catapult us to a new level of reaching our students and empowering them in ways that they've never even envisioned. So we're excited.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to see the amazing things you do and the fruit that bears in the future. This will be amazing. So, hey, as we wrap up, Genevieve, just practically, like, what's the timeline now? There's an implementation phase, and what can families do to eventually participate?
Well, the good news is school choice is now law in Texas. So we have the legislation part done. Now we transition into the rulemaking process, where we really design and figure out, how is implementation going to work? What are the rules that we need to employ to ensure that the program is administered correctly and not wastefully? How do we do this to make sure that we're reaching out to the parents and the families that should receive eligibility first? So there's a lot of very specific nuts and bolts details that we're going to spend the next year helping to work on. The program will officially launch in the 2026-2027 calendar year, the school year calendar year. And the program will be administered by our state comptroller. What is that role? That is the state's chief financial officer. And so we'll make sure that, whether it's tuition, textbooks, therapies for students with disabilities, transportation, curriculum, all sorts of approved expenditures are ready for parents to be able to direct their decisions, and the comptroller can push those dollars to the appropriate places. So there's a lot more still to be done on this issue, but the really hard part is now done. Now we need to just make sure that the program is ultimately successful in its first year, so that way we can build on it and give more opportunity, educational freedom, educational opportunity, and ultimately long life prosperity to more Texas families.
Well, it was an inspiring win for the entire education freedom movement. And, Texas has always been hanging out there as a freedom-loving state, but never really was able to finish this. And you guys helped bring it home. Genevieve, you and your partners and our colleagues at AFP Texas really did a lot of work, and a lot of good work. Sometimes we talk about just working, but it was a lot of really good work to really empower families now across Texas, and really hand over to Joel, who even had his voice in the, trying to pass this, but like really now to let guys like Joel do the great work of transforming lives, even more so across Texas. And I'm so excited to see how this pays dividends for generations to come for Texas families. Yeah.
Texas will be the head and not the tail, David.
That's right. Amen. Amen. If I could say one thing too, David, is that,
sure,
again, the AFP staff in Texas are phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. Genevieve, James Mayfield, Christy Antonic, and Kay Burden, just amazing. Everyone that I've worked with, and others that I can't call the names, but just all I interacted with at the Capitol, just amazing people. Just so gracious and loving and kind and passionate about the battle, the fight, and the work that AFP does. The organization is just phenomenal. I'm so grateful to know these amazing people. Love them so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we're really grateful that we have the chance to hold up voices like yours and let them have so much more influence. And that's what, frankly, attracts good people to come and work with us at AFP. And that's why, because we get to make a difference by, empowering people like you, Joel. So, well, hey, thanks so much to both of you for that. We can celebrate and talk about this giant win in policy space and look forward to awesome change across Texas.
Thank
you. Hey, if you like this episode and would like to stay connected with the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And always remember, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend freedom and liberty. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.